Below the line of time prologue, the journal, the old man sat in the half-light of the shack, the tide whispering against the rocks like an old song he once knew. A leather-bound journal lay open in his hands, its pages yellowed, corners curled like dried leaves. The salt air had kissed every inch of it over the years, and yet the ink still held, faint but legible, a testament to memory, to things unseen. Jean-Marie Vallois was near the end of his long life, and he knew it. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of the truth he had carried for nearly half a century. They had called him mad, a dreamer, a drunk, a liar. Let them. He had seen something that did not belong to the world of men, something older than fire. A boy, his grandson, sat cross-legged on the floor, silent, wide-eyed. Outside the sea hissed, the wind rustled palm leaves, and the fire cracked. Jean-Marie took a long breath, exhaling like a wave pulling back from the shore. "You ever hear of the Coelacanth, Petty?" he asked, voice like gravel softened by time. The boy shook his head. "No, I didn't think so. Nobody believed they existed back then. Not even the men who studied fish for a living." He turned a page, stared into a sketch that looked like it was drawn by moonlight. "But I met one, back in 1841, and she looked at me as if I were the creature that didn't belong." Chapter 1. The Fisherman's Life. Jean-Marie Vallois had always preferred the company of the sea to that of men. In the summer of 1841, he was 37, already gray at the temples, with a wiry frame hardened by years of hauling nets and braving storms. He lived in a weather-beaten shack some miles outside Fort Dauphin, on the southern coast of Madagascar, a land of cyclones, strange birds, and older stories still. Each morning before dawn, he pushed his small sloop, La Lune Blue, into the swells, past the reefs, and out to where the ocean ran deep and blue. There, where few dared go, he cast his nets and lines, whispering old Breton blessings passed down by his mother. He fished alone, not for lack of offers, but because he trusted the sea more than he trusted men. The locals called him Le Fantôme de la Mer, the ghost of the sea, partly in jest, partly in fear. They said he sailed too far, chased shadows in the water, muttered to invisible things, but Jean-Marie listened always. The sea, he knew, spoke in silence, and in that silence he had heard things, not voices, no, but a kind of memory older than language. Once, far from shore, he had glimpsed a shimmer below the keel, a movement that stirred something deep in his bones, something wrong, or maybe too right to belong to this world. Chapter 2. The Storm and the Stranger. The storm came without warning, like most do near the equator. One moment the sky was blue and burning. The next it split open in a fury of wind and water. Jean-Marie had barely enough time to beach his sloop and tie down his nets before the heavens roared. The rain lasted 2 days. On the third morning the sun returned, and with it something unexpected. He found the stranger lying on the sand near the southern cove, half covered in kelp and foam. His clothes were torn, hat missing, pale face burned red from salt and sun. Jean-Marie poked him with the end of an oar. The man groaned. "You're alive," Jean-Marie muttered. "That's inconvenient." The man sat up, coughing sea-water, eyes squinting. He was tall, thin, with a scholar's posture and hands that had clearly not known a rope or harpoon. "Water," he rasped. Jean-Marie pointed toward a barrel by the rocks. Help yourself. I'll be back when the tide is out." When he returned with dried fish and tobacco, the man had already started a fire, using driftwood and his boots as kindling. "I'm Dr. Elias Thorne," the man said, between bites of fish. "Jean-Marie Vallois." "French?" "Breton. Not that it matters anymore. You saved my life. I was trying to save the beach." "You're very heavy." Thorne chuckled, then winced. "My boat was dashed somewhere near the reefs. I was charting marine fauna off the southern trenches, particularly specimens of a theoretical genus. You might say a hunch." Jean-Marie eyed him. "You're one of those science men?" Thorne nodded, then reached into his satchel, surprisingly still dry inside, and pulled out a leather notebook. Inside were sketches, notes, and a single drawing that made Jean-Marie's chest go still. It showed a fish. No, something more than a fish. Its body was thick, armored with overlapping scales, its eyes enormous, its fins oddly limb-like, jointed like a dog's legs. It was labeled Latimeria chalumnae, hypothetical. "You've seen this?" Jean-Marie asked slowly. "Not with my eyes, only in fragments, fossils. But I've heard tales. From Mozambique, Comoros, and even old Portuguese logs. And you think it still lives? I think the sea forgets to kill some things." Jean-Marie said nothing. The sketch was too close, too real. It resembled something he'd seen once, years ago. Just a flicker beneath the keel at twilight. He hadn't spoken of it since. "What do you want from me?" "Help me reach the trench. We'll go out far beyond the continental shelf. I know what to look for." "You're insane," Jean-Marie said. "So they tell me." They smoked in silence for a long while. Then Jean-Marie spoke. "The ocean keeps its monsters where men don't belong. If you want to see them, you'd better know how to listen." Chapter 3. The Journey Begins. 3 days later, La Lune Bleu cut through morning mist like a knife through gauze. The sea stretched in every direction, wide as the sky, gently heaving. Jean-Marie stood at the helm, one hand on the rudder, the other wrapped around a tin mug of bitter coffee. Dr. Thorne, looking considerably less pale than when he had washed ashore, pored over maps and notes in the forward hatch. They had left before dawn, loaded with dried meat, water casks, sturdy nets, and an arsenal of strange instruments Thorne had insisted upon. Brass gauges, spools of waxed line, a hand-blown glass jar filled with formaldehyde, and a harpoon far too clean for comfort. "We'll aim for the southern trench," Thorne said, pointing at a scrawled map. "Roughly 45 miles from the coast. Depths here exceed 2,000 feet. Jean-Marie grunted. "Fish don't live that deep." "No ordinary fish," Thorne replied, eyes gleaming. For hours they sailed in near silence, broken only by the groan of wood, the flap of sails, and the gentle hiss of wind. Thorne tried to make conversation, offering scraps of scientific lore, the Carboniferous oceans, Devonian predators, deep living sharks, but Jean-Marie responded with nods or shrugs. He had no interest in history, only in the present rhythm of the water. By mid-afternoon, the coast had vanished entirely. They passed over the reef line, then into the open blue, where even seabirds dared not follow. The water changed, darker, denser, and the air grew quiet in a way that suggested distance from land, from safety, from the world of men. "Tell me something," Thorne said suddenly. "You've fished these waters for years. Have you ever seen anything unusual?" Jean-Marie hesitated. Once, a long time ago, south of the deep trench, just past twilight, the water was glass, no wind, and something passed under my boat. It didn't swim like a fish. It walked, slow and smooth, like it had nowhere to be. Thorn stared at him. Did you catch it? No. Did you try? No. That night they anchored above the trench. The stars came out like frost on velvet, and the sea turned black and still. Below them, 2,000 feet of water yawned like a chasm. Jean-Marie dropped a line. It sank slowly, almost reluctantly, disappearing into that eternal darkness. Chapter 4. First Encounter. They fished the trench for 2 days, with no result. The nets came up empty or torn by jagged rocks. Thorn's equipment, deep lines baited with strange glowing lures, brought only silence. Each failed haul made him more irritable. Jean-Marie remained calm, tending sails, adjusting depth, muttering to the wind. On the third night, something changed. The moon hung full and low on the horizon, casting silver fire across the ripples. Jean-Marie had lit a storm lantern at the bow, more out of ritual than need. Thorn, notebook in hand, paced the deck, muttering measurements and sounding depths. Then a sound, not a splash, not a cry, a thrum, like distant thunder, but beneath them. Jean-Marie froze. The lantern flickered. The line jerked. Not tugged, jerked violently, like it had snagged the bottom of the world. "We've got something," Thorn hissed. Jean-Marie rushed to the side, grabbing the reel. The rope creaked. Slowly, with painful effort, they began to haul it in. Then the line went slack. "Lost it," Thorn whispered, voice shaking. "No," Jean-Marie said. "It's coming up." A shape rose beneath the hull, faint at first, a flicker in the lantern light, blurred by water. Then clearer, bulkier, a strange undulating motion, as if fins were folding and unfolding in sequence, not flapping, but walking. "There!" Thorn cried. The thing breached for half a second, no more. It rolled just beneath the surface, eyes catching the lantern like 2 pale coins. Its skin shimmered, deep blue-black, with splotches like marble. The pectoral fins were not fins at all. They articulated, bent like elbows. Its tail curled in a slow, ancient spiral. It made no splash, no panic. Then it was gone. Thorn was on his knees, scribbling furiously. "Did you see, my God? Did you see it?" Jean-Marie nodded slowly. His hands trembled on the rail. "Latimeria," Thorn breathed. "It lives." Neither man slept that night. The next day the air turned heavy with heat, and the sea like molten glass. They did not speak much, both men trapped in their own thoughts. Jean-Marie watched the horizon. Thorn drew furiously, consulting notes and books, obsessively measuring angles, depths, bait, temperature. By noon the sea erupted. Without warning, something struck the hull. A massive thud reverberated from the underside, enough to rock the sloop. Nets flew. A bucket skidded across the deck. Jean-Marie grabbed the rail just in time to keep from going over. "It's here," Thorn shouted. "It followed us." Jean-Marie peered over the side. Nothing. Just shadow and churn. But the rope lines began to move again, like something circling below, inspecting them. "It's not hunting," he muttered. "It's watching." Thorn stared at him. "What do you mean?" Jean-Marie pointed to the water. "It's not acting like a fish. It's not scared of us. It's curious, like a monk studying ants." That evening, as the sun turned the clouds to blood, they set a new kind of trap. A bait cage of raw squid lowered to just above the trench mouth, with weighted netting designed to collapse around a large body. Jean-Marie lit the lanterns. Thorn readied his sketchbook and camera, a bulky contraption with glass plates and shutter levers. They waited. Hours passed. Then a tug, soft at first, then stronger, rope unwinding. Thorn held his breath. The cage jerked sideways, then again. Then it stopped, and then something began rising. It came slowly, as if ascending through centuries. First the tail, broad, flaring, with a strange tri-lobed shape. Then the fins, 4 of them, each moving with quiet precision. Then the body, thick and scaly like armor, dotted with pale glowing specks. Finally the head, large, heavy, with a blunt snout and ancient glassy eyes that seemed to absorb the moonlight without reflection. The fish hovered impossibly beneath the hull. It was unlike anything Jean-Marie had seen in all his years. It was not beautiful. It was not monstrous. It was impossible. The lantern light cast it in gold and shadow. It moved without fear. It turned slightly, as if to offer its full profile. Its fins did not twitch. They stepped with intention. "It's posing," Thorn whispered. "For us." Then in a blur it turned, kicked once, and vanished. Thorn screamed in frustration. No, we needed more time. But Jean-Marie raised a hand. "It came back," he said. "It chose to be seen. It'll come again." Chapter 5. The Second Hunt. The next morning the sea was eerily calm. Not a breath of wind stirred the sails. The sun rose slow and red like a warning. Jean-Marie and Thorn stood at opposite ends of the deck, silent, each swallowed by thought. They had witnessed the impossible. But now came the harder question. What next? "We need to capture it," Thorn said finally. "We need proof, not just drawings, not just a memory, a body." Jean-Marie turned to him slowly. "You want to kill it?" "We don't have to kill it. A sedative net, strong enough to restrain, gentle enough to preserve the specimen. I've done it before with rare sharks." Jean-Marie shook his head. "This isn't like any fish you've handled. It watches us, learns, comes and goes on its own terms. You think you can trap a ghost?" "I have to," Thorn snapped. "Do you know what this means? This fish, this coelacanth, it's been extinct for 65 million years. It predates mammals, birds. It walked the ocean floor when dinosaurs ruled the land. It has bones in its fins. It's a missing link between sea and land life, a walking contradiction." Jean-Marie narrowed his eyes. "And you want to drag it into the light so other men can poke it with needles?" Thorn was silent. The fisherman spat into the sea. "Sometimes the sea keeps secrets because they're too heavy for land." Despite the tension, they set the trap. This time they used 2 nets, one suspended just above the trench, the other floating beneath the hull. Thorn had soaked a bait mixture in whale oil and crushed squid, scenting the water for miles. He adjusted the weight, the line tension, the drift speed, every detail calculated. Jean-Marie watched the sky. The clouds were wrong. A high cirrus line feathered out across the west, storm signs. The barometer, too, was falling, but he said nothing. By dusk, they were ready. The lanterns flickered as the air grew still. And then, without sound or splash, it came again. This time there was no mistaking the intention. It rose from below like a memory surfacing. Not hurried, not startled, as if it had been watching all along, waiting for their return. It circled once, fins sweeping in slow rhythm. Then it approached the bait. "Now," Thorn whispered. The nets collapsed. The water thrashed, briefly. A terrible churn of froth and mussel. The coelacanth twisted violently, tail smashing into the rigging. For a moment, Jean-Marie thought the sloop might tip. Then stillness. "We have it," Thorn said, breathless. "We've got it." The creature floated within the net like a fallen star, barely moving, eyes wide. It wasn't panicked. It didn't flail. It watched them. Jean-Marie stepped closer. "Don't touch it," he warned. "It's not done." As if in response, the coelacanth flicked its tail once. The net snapped open like wet paper. It wasn't brute strength. It was precision, intelligence. In a blur, it dove and vanished. "No," Thorn whispered. "No, we had it." He fell to his knees, fingers clutching at wet ropes. Jean-Marie looked into the dark water. He had no words. Only one thought. We were allowed to see it once. That was a gift. Anything more is theft. Chapter 6. The coelacanth revealed. The storm came that night. It tore across the sea like a living thing. Claws of wind, teeth of rain. Lightning split the sky into pieces. Loon blue groaned against the waves, its sails furled tight, its lines trembling. Jean-Marie lashed the tiller and shouted over the wind. Thorn clung to the mast, soaked and shivering. For hours they fought the sea. At one point, Jean-Marie thought the mast would snap, but the old sloop held, her timbers screaming like whales. By dawn, the storm had passed. Everything was wet, broken, or gone. One of Thorn's cases, the one with notes and sketches, had been swept into the sea. He stared blankly over the edge, numb. "All my work," he whispered. "Gone. Just like that." Jean-Marie didn't speak. He was staring too, but not at the water, at the thing rising from it. It came slowly, silently. No splash, no wake, as if lifted by invisible hands. The coelacanth, but not just one. 3 of them. They hovered around the boat, larger than before, or perhaps only closer, their eyes fixed on the men. One tilted its head, studying them like scholars observing apes through glass. "My God," Thorn breathed. "They're not animals. They're beings." Jean-Marie nodded. He felt it too. An intelligence. Not human. Not warm, but aware. The largest of the 3 came closest. It was covered in scars, old wounds, healed. Its scales shimmered with hidden patterns that danced in the rising light. And then it made a sound, a low, pulsing hum that vibrated through the hull, through the bones. Not heard with ears, felt in the chest. "Is it speaking?" Thorn asked. Jean-Marie didn't answer, because in that moment a memory surfaced in his mind, but not his own. He saw a vast underwater cave, lit by volcanic glow. He saw 1,000,000 years pass in seconds, meteors, ice, blood, silence. He saw boats, old and new, pass overhead. He saw extinction held at bay not by luck, but by will. He staggered back. The coelacanth watched. Then, slowly, it sank. The others followed. And just like that, they were gone. Not a splash. Not a sign, only silence. They returned to shore a day later, exhausted, wordless. Thorn never recovered his lost notes. His story of the Coelacanth, the storm, the encounter, was mocked by the academic world. He returned to England and faded into obscurity. Jean-Marie told no one, until many decades later, when a South African fisherman caught a strange blue fish in 1938, a coelacanth. By then, Jean-Marie was an old man with a journal and a grandson. He smiled when he read the news. "Took them long enough," he said. Epilogue. The boy sat silently by the fire, staring at the drawing in the journal. His grandfather's hand had grown shaky, but the likeness was there. The ancient eye, the walking fins, the twilight shimmer. "They're still down there?" he asked. Jean-Marie nodded. "Not just there, watching, waiting, maybe remembering. Will anyone ever find them again? Maybe, maybe not. But remember this, not every truth wants to be known. Some truths only want to be felt." The sea outside whispered against the rocks, and far below, in the trench where sunlight died, something stirred, not forgotten, only waiting. The end.